Welcome to the Mayflower Ancestors virtual meeting for the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, found at genealogicalstudies.com. I'm Cheryl Levy, and this is October. And so we decided that for the virtual meetings this month, we're going to kind of do an October theme. And so for this virtual meeting, we're going to talk about the Salem witch trials. And so I just want to just show you quickly, this is part of the colonial period courses, and we have 3 of them that we offer at the Institute that are specifically for the colonial time frame. And that is researching your Mayflower ancestors, researching your US colonial New England ancestors, and researching your United Empire Loyalist ancestors. And so this one is going to be based on the Mayflower one, but it will overlap with the colonial period as well. But I was curious about the Salem witch trials, and were there any descendants of the Mayflower passengers that were involved? And so then I started researching. So we know that there were not all the passengers survived the first year. And so this is a list of the known descendants. The passengers to have known descendants. That makes a difference. So these are the original Mayflower passengers that we know. It has been proven or traceable that they have left descendants. And so this is found in your course material. And we were going to take a look and see. And so I'm going to just switch out of here. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Sorry about that. Okay, and I want to go here, share. Okay, can you see my screen there? Okay, I'm gonna stop this. Sorry, a bit of technical difficulty there. Can you see this one? Okay. So one of the first things that you want to do when you're researching an event is to find out the history. And so I did some Googling and went and found some websites with historical content. And there's a lot of different ones, and I'm not going to go into everything that happened in the Salem witch trials. There's been a lot written about it, but I'm going to come from the perspective of a researcher, especially a genealogy researcher, to see what we can find in not just the stories, but the people who were involved in the story. So in order to do that, we need to know the history of what happened. And so make sure that you look, and I have a few websites in here that have part of the history. But one of the things that's really important is to find out a timeline of what actually happened. And so I really like this one. And it's from a website called 1692 Salem Witch Museum. And they actually have exhibits and all of that. But they have a page that gives a breakdown of the dates and what was happening during that time. And so this is a good place to go in, especially if you have people who were living in this area, who were part of this town. Maybe their cousin lived there. Maybe, they had friends that came from there. All of these things will be relevant to find out what exactly happened. And so I'm not going to go into the details. You can go and look that up, but it gives a breakdown of what was happening. And the opinions changed. And then it started in 1692. In January of 1693, the court is still accusing people. And finally, in the 31st of January, Governor Phipps steps in and says, okay, enough of this already. And they try and put a stop to this. And they take the minister away in 1696 and replace him with another minister. In 1697, they have a day of public fasting and prayer in atonement for the errors that they made during the hysteria that was going on in this town at the time. In 1698, they replaced the minister in 1706. And you can see this timeline goes on beyond just the time frame of the trials themselves, because you want to know what happened afterwards, or I do, in order to find out where the records are, and records that were not just for the trial, but for the people afterwards. And so this one in 1706, she stood up and she read her statement of faith and apologizes for her wrongdoing. 1711, they approve 12 individuals who were executed, that they, a reversal of their charges in 1945. So it kept going. A bill was introduced to clear the 6 remaining names that weren't on the other list. And in 2001, they added even more names. And even in 2021, they added another name of somebody that they discovered wasn't in the list. And so I really like this website, and just explore it and see what else there is. If you check the menu over here, there's lots of other things. And this is the 1692 Salem Witch Museum. And so that was an interesting website. So another thing was that it wasn't just in Salem. And so on this website, which is the Boston Public Library, under Salem Witch Trials, and they have a number of topics there, that it wasn't just in Salem, it was in all of these other towns as well. And so that may be a surprise. That was a surprise to me. Now I have to go back and look. I have a lot of Massachusetts early colonial ancestors, and I have to go back in these towns now and find out if any names from those towns match up with my family's. There is a place that they created with a wall with plaques for all the people who were accused and who were hung. And you can see that, and there's links to different things about that. This is the Witch House, which is the home of Jonathan Cohen, and there's even, they have their own website, even with a house history about that house. And so there's lots of things on these websites that you can find out where exactly the houses were, about the first church, the village parsonage, where a lot of those things were going on. And so look for history, look for websites that's going to give you more details for the events that you're researching. And I clicked on this map, and it brought me here, which is part of the Boston Public Library digital collections. It's a map of Salem in 1692. And so this can give you an idea of who was living there, and the different people are named here and where they lived on the map. So that's another aspect. You could look up and find out where your ancestor lived and how close were they to all these goings on. And so that is another thing that you could look for. I always check Wikipedia. It is a derivative. It is user contributed information, and it'll give you, it's not going to be an official record, but it's going to give you other information. So maybe somebody has added something in here that is from their particular research, and they've added it in. It may add to the big timeline, and so when you're building your timeline or your chronology, then you want to add information from a lot of different sources. But I really like about Wikipedia, and I'm just going to go down, 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 is at the bottom. Always go to the bottom of a Wikipedia page because there will be the references of where they got the information. And you can click on those and maybe find other information that wasn't in this article, but is relevant to your research. So always scroll to the bottom of a Wikipedia page and see what references they used. Okay, the next one is Thought Company, and it's our thought co dot. And so it's not an official website, but it just gives you some information. So somebody has gone through and made a timeline, and again, they may add things that you didn't think about, or that just a little tidbit that wasn't in, like right here they're quoting somebody and in different publications. And so that might be something to add because this was in 1648 and 1656, and the trials were into 1692. So they can give you additional information. And so that's another one. So that's on Thought CO, and that is just called Salem Witch Trials Timeline. And just Google it. Google timeline for whatever event that you're looking for, or a town, or even a state. Build those timelines because they may have information that is useful to you. Here's another one, and this website was Witches of Massachusetts Bay, but again, it was another timeline. And so here's a monument that it was put up in the 1950s. Well, this was actually on a postcard. And so it just gives you different perspectives. A lot of the information will be the same, hopefully, but it may just add something, and there may be something else on here. There's different categories where you could go and find other things. And they have a blog. Any of these websites that have a blog, you can search for your topics and see if there's something that might be of value to you. Okay, and this is the last timeline I'm going to show you. This is Legends of America. And so again, this is the Salem witch trials. A lot of these websites have these crazy ads on them, and you don't get discouraged with these ads because that's how they pay for their websites so that you can see what they're talking about. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Okay, hang on. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. So as we're doing this, I was curious then who was being accused, because if we're looking for our ancestors or siblings of our ancestors or family members, we want to know who was accused. So again, this is back on the Boston Public Library website, and they have, again, under the Salem witch trials, they have a lot of different topics. It has a list of the accused. And what I liked about this is it gave little synopsis of who they were and other links to follow through. But then there was this one yes, this one was out of the University of Virginia, has a specific special project that they're doing called the Salem Witch Trials Documentary Archive and Transcription Project. So this is a website to really, really look into. It has a lot of information. It has maps, it has documents, it has maps of Salem, Andover, Salem in 1700, map of the accusations. It has a lot of information. They are working on this project to get as much as they can about this event. And so in it, it has a list of all the persons accused of witchcraft. And what I liked about this list was it was an alphabetical list. It had the town that they were from and the date that they were accused. And so this is handy if you have a lot of people living in Salem or close by that you can look through and see if you can find your people. Okay, another one on it is you can actually go in, they're transcribing the actual documents. And so it gives a little introduction for using the Salem witchcraft papers. It tells you what type of records they use. And then they give you a little bit of a glossary for terminology that is going to be in the court records. And that can be helpful. Again, it gives you a chronology here and just information about the records and their transcriptions. Okay, and this is okay. So this is the again on history. I may have got that out of order. Okay, on history, this is from the UMKC School of Law under famous trials. And so their perspective is going to be from a legal perspective. And look at all these other resources they have on the Salem trials. And they're going to have a lot of information, but from the perspective of a school of law. So you may get different information there that could be helpful. Okay, and then the next one, same website. This is an account of one of the people who was charged, and that is interesting reading. And a list of books and links to follow up. How many love to know where else to look for things? Books and websites that other researchers have found that are going to be useful to your research. This one is the Gilder Lehman Institute of American History under History Resources, and it's called Inside the Vault of the Salem Witch Trials. And there's this presentation here. There's a video to watch, and it also gives you links to other resources that they use, gives a little outline of what they're talking about. And right here, if you click here, you can download the slides from that presentation. Okay, moving on. This is the Congregational Library and Archives, and it has manuscript collections, and it has an article on the Salem witch trial records and some links there that you may want to follow through on. Okay. This one is from the Massachusetts government, and it is Salem Witch Trials original court records. And so it gives information here about, and here it's quoting one of the ones that we've already done, the famous trials, and other references, other links to places that are doing research on the Salem trials. So just check a lot of different websites, see what you can find. Now, we want to see who was in the Salem witch trials that was a Mayflower descendant. And so here we go. I'm just going to close these other windows so it doesn't shut me down. Okay, so in this one that was put out by the University of Virginia, I did find a Mayflower descendant, and that was John Alden Jr. So John Alden and Priscilla Mullins were passengers on the Mayflower. John Alden, their son, was born about 1626, around there. He was a mariner. He lived in Boston, but he was amongst the accused. And here they have all of the documents that they are transcribing of his arrest and the charges and all of the information. So, yes, there was a Mayflower descendant who was part of the Salem witch trial and was accused. And so there's all the information in there. And you can see on the side that all the other names of the people are alphabetical, and you can click and see the documents that they're transcribing for all of the people that were accused. Okay. And then this one was just about the trials again, and they had a lot of different things, and that's at salem.org. That's put out by the actual town of Salem. And of course, they're going to post things about their history. And they have a blog on the Salem town and events and different things that you can do because they're going to promote that as tourists. This was a website on the witch house, and this was the house history, the history of the house that is known as the witch house, and you can go see it. And it has events, and especially in October, of course, they're going to celebrate that. And this one was ghostcitytours.com in Salem, and it had a whole lot of background information that you may find things, and it's they're using AI photos, but they're putting together information to help people understand the history before they're going on those tours. Okay, I just have one more place I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go, whoops. Oh, and that is to this one. And so I said that John Alden Jr. was one of the accused. And so I went to Wikipedia. Again, it's going to give me information, but I'm not going to take just that information, but it gives me a quick outline. He was a shipmaster, he was a merchant, he was a soldier. He had quite a colorful life, and it just gives a lot of background, but it also covers the Salem witch trials. And he was involved with the French Indian War and with King Philip's War. And so he was a soldier as well. Again, go to the bottom, find the notes, find the references to other resources where they got this information about him. Okay, I also was very surprised to see that the Canadian Dictionary of Canadian Biography came up when I put in John Alden. And as a shipmaster, he came up to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. And so that was surprising to me. So he's not just somebody who was some part of the witch trials. He is somebody who had a very colorful life and did a lot of other things once he was cleared. Okay, this one again is Thought Company, and it is about him specifically, John Alden Jr. and the witch trials. And then this was a website called the Historical Digression. And it was an article written by this gentleman, which was a very interesting blog. And then on the Massachusetts, the History of Massachusetts blog was John Alden's account of his witch trial examination. And so they have documents about that. And so that is interesting from that person's perspective. Okay, and again, that was the one on that one. And then finally, I went to find a grave, and he does have a profile on Find a Grave. He is buried at the Old South Church in Boston, and that is a piece of his stone that is left. And so that is the descendant of the Mayflower passengers who was accused of witchcraft, Captain John Alden. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. Does anybody have any comments about the Salem witch trials and the surprise that Captain John Alden was amongst the accused who was actually jailed and escaped, but he was not hung. He came back later, but he did escape and he got away and was cleared later, as all of them were. So thank you for joining me today. That was a quick run through. I hope that you watch the recording again so that you can pick up those websites and check them out. And really, when you're looking for an event in a particular place, make a timeline, look for maps, and look for resources where other people have done research and see what you can find and see how your ancestor fit in to those historical events. So thank you. This has been the Mayflower virtual meeting for October. And I'm Cheryl Levy, and this is hosted from the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, found at genealogicalstudies.com.